Good morning, everybody. Welcome to IT Live, brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors. I'm Tex Homer. That is Ian Boyd. Today, we're going to talk about what we've learned from the scrimmages and how it might inform Texas's 2026 championship strategy. But first, we got something really cool going on. Thank you, Academy. The Ultimate Inside Texas Tailgate giveaway. You can get a Blackstone Grill, Yeti cooler, 2 tumblers, 2 Longhorn chairs, canopy/tent, all of that. If you just sign up on our Instagram, the link is below in the description, and it's leading up to Texas versus Texas A&M in baseball. Winner will be announced after the series. Hopefully we can go get that win, but it's an awesome thing. We did it last year as well. No strings attached. Just go enter on Instagram and you can get a lot of cool stuff. Also, join Inside Texas today, y'all. Spring sale, 50% off. Our board IT paired with On3 and Rivals altogether, Ultimate Fan Bundle. That link is also in the description. Hey, Ian, how are you, man?
Good.
Good.
Ryan Nelson, right out of the gate with a good question.
Let's get it. The last 5 champions have had at least a top 4 offense and a top 4 defense in advanced metrics. What is your confidence we can get to both? Also, what sides are you more confident in 2026? Ian, did you and I do a video, I don't know, months ago, where I did it with somebody, but we said the whole concept of defense wins championships is not necessarily true. It's actually just really good teams win championships. Was that you or Paul?
I vaguely remember that.
Okay, but we just pointed out that like that mantra is not necessarily correct. Like it's just good teams are winning lately.
So the 2020 Alabama Crimson Tide are an exception to this rule. As soon as Ryan said that, I was like, is that true? And it was not true in 2020. It was not true in 2019. It was true in 2018. It was true every year since 2020. It was not true in, not true in 2017. But since the playoff expanded, it's been true. Blake Bryant says advanced metrics is a pretty broad term. I just scrolled through FEIs.
I was going to say, normally we just mean FEI.
That's more or less been the case. The team that is elite at offense and defense wins the championship, which is pretty obvious. If you are elite in offense and defense, if that is an attainable goal and you reach it, who's going to beat you?
Right. But that's the balance has been important. That's why we said, hey, in the new era, it's not just necessarily repeating defense wins championships. The teams that are winning are really good. I'd be interested to see their special teams FEI too with those guys and see if they're just like all the way well-rounded. But it's a new thing. So what'd you say?
I bet it's pretty varied.
Yeah, special teams can be a weird variable.
It's also special teams have big is delta the right word? Your special teams rank can swing wildly based on making or missing a couple field goals or something. Sure. And that's not really a great indicator of it's actually a pretty small part of the formula when they're
there's Paul says it all the time. People are saying special teams is a third of the game, and it's like, no, it's not. If you just look at the number of plays, there's a few number of plays, and so if something goes wrong, it's going to have an outsized impact. Ryan points out too, LSU and Bama had historically great offense, and that allowed slightly worse defenses. So either you need to have both, or you need to be an all-time offense with still a solid defense. So that's how you win it.
And those two teams had pretty good defenses. Yeah. I think LSU's was actually a lot better by the end of the year than it was earlier on. They got better over the course of the year.
So second part, what is your confidence we can get to both?
Decent. I think it's possible.
I think it's possible. Do you think it's more likely that we get to top 4 offense or top 4 defense? Here's my argument. Texas has not gotten to top 4 offense under Sark, so it's less likely, but are just historically. But the offense does look pretty exciting. Top 4 defense, Texas has done several times, but it's a new coordinator. So in a weird way, I feel like Texas could get closer to top 4 offense than top 4 defense.
I am more confident in a top 4 defense.
Why is that? Player wise, or you think Muschamp's just going to hit the ground running?
I think Muschamp's really good, and I think they have some special players on the D line and in the secondary. And when you're like elite athletically in those two spots, and you're well coordinated and you're veterans, then you're just going to crush teams consistently.
So let's think through it. So if we get Bo Masco, we can count him as a veteran because he's played years at Rutgers.
Mm-hmm.
Cade Phillips is not a veteran. Littleton is not a veteran by age.
Those are second-year guys, though, that have already played at a position where.
And Littleton played a lot.
Third-year breakouts amongst elite athletes are super common.
Yeah. Jelani is a veteran.
Yes.
And then Derek Williams is a veteran, but in a weird kind of situation.
He's like a fifth-year player, right?
I don't know if he's fifth year.
He's at least fourth.
But I thought he got hurt I thought OU his freshman or sophomore year where he got hurt. Check and tell it. He's got to be a third or a fourth.
Sophomore. Last year was his junior year. This should be his senior year.
Okay.
He could maybe apply for an exemption if he wanted to come back next year.
Yeah. So you have the experience on the secondary, which you like, and then of course, like Colin Simmons. I think Lance Jackson's going to have a crazy year.
Hero Canoe.
Hero.
Maybe Alex January.
We just named everybody besides the linebackers. So
I mean, even there, like Rasheem Biles could have a pretty special
I'm a Biles believer, dude. I'm a Biles truther. Yeah, I think my only question is just year one. That's it for me. And so
year one for Muschamp?
Yeah.
Nah. He's had a bunch of year ones, and they've all been.
And you said he had a good or a decent year one at Texas, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were like elite immediately with like freshmen and sophomores in the secondary. And his year one at Auburn was good. His year one at Florida, South Carolina, he has an immediate impact on defense. He knows what he's doing there.
Okay, cool. So what do you think about the offensive side?
Seeing is believing. I think they have the pieces to do it. I don't know if they're going to pull it off or not. They really should. I think we all agree about that. If they're not top 10, at least, that's going to be kind of embarrassing. They almost seem like, we're going to get into this, but they almost seem like they could be top 10 with KJ Lacey. So they should definitely be top 10 with Arch Manning.
Yeah. All right. Let's pull up the article here. So this is what the scrimmage tells us about Texas 2026 championship strategy. Ian, will you please set the table for us, sir?
So they had a scrimmage it was Friday, right?
Yeah.
I said it was Friday, so I'm glad that was right. We got a few different sources chiming in on what that scrimmage looked like. I got access to one long scrimmage report from one onlooker, and we discussed it extensively, me and you and Pack. And to me, there was a couple things that really stood out about the scrimmage, and most of them had to do with what they were calling on offense and defense.
What were they calling offense and defense, Ian?
The offense was primarily in 11 personnel, and they were primarily throwing the ball.
Yeah.
Which is like Ian's panacea,
Yeah.
And then the defense was playing. It's hard to tell what all they were doing. We've heard a few different things about what the defense was up to, but it sounds like they got a good amount of 4-down nickel defense in. And you want to hear that Texas is developing a good 4-down nickel defense, because that would be the best possible way to utilize Colin Simmons, who could be one of the best player in the country.
Yeah. And one thing I like too from that report is the routes the offense was running, we can get a little bit obsessed with the deep ball or like a play action element or like true deep game passing. But I did like hearing that a lot of it was more of the surgical spread style of passing, which you've highlighted a lot that Arch is good at and we wanted more of. And we kind of made that switch around Mississippi State. We started doing it more.
Apparently KJ Lacey is good at it too.
Yeah.
Just not surprising really, but that's still a big deal.
Yeah. But I like that take what you give. If you're not standing there, I throw it here for 5 yards. And now we're ahead of the sticks are on schedule opposed to chasing if you miss a big throw. So that's nice. Let's talk about the importance of 11 personnel.
This is like we all know Sark loves to chase explosive plays. He wants to stress you out with speed everywhere, misdirection, play action, run pass conflict. He wants to mix all these things in and just get you all twisted and tied up. And then Ryan Wingo hits a seam, or you lose, Emmett Mosley behind the defense, or Cam Coleman wins a one-on-one, or you load back up and then Raleek Brown breaks off a 75-yard run, etc. That's all great. That's a good way to do offense in general. You play the really good teams and that well goes dry. They know your tricks. They know how to play conservatively, and they have the personnel to play conservatively without getting just wrecked, right? This is what we were talking about a couple of weeks ago, like which teams can do that. It wasn't a ton of teams on the schedule, but it will be some teams in the playoffs. So then it's like, okay, what do we do when the going gets hard? And we just have to like out execute somebody and go beat them. Well, most people want to default to that's when you got to run the ball. That's the wrong answer. Relying on running the ball at the highest level against the toughest competition is a terrible, inefficient thing to do for just about everyone.
It doesn't scale.
It doesn't scale.
And a lot of the teams are in the playoffs because of their ability to make you one-dimensional and stop the run too.
Yes, everybody wants to be able to stop the run. And if you're playing a team that's in the playoffs, that means that they were able to do it.
Yep.
So they have extra time to prepare for you. They know your run game. They probably have NFL players across your D-line, maybe more than you have on your O-line. And so the odds of somebody losing a one-on-one and your running back getting hit for a 3-yard loss are like way too high on any given play for that to be a sustainable strategy for scoring. And then also when you get the playoffs, teams play run defense differently. It's like there's been players in the NBA where it's like, that's great, but once we get to the playoffs and other teams are actually willing to, like Shaq, like teams are going to play you differently in the playoffs when it really matters, Shaq. They're not going to bump with you. They're not going to bump into you and take body blows in the regular season and an 82-game schedule. And so all this stuff works, but in the playoffs, it's not going to be like that. The run game is so much like that, where teams are going to play harder. They're going to play better players, more snaps, and they're just going to give you fits trying to run the ball that you wouldn't encounter in the regular season. Justin Wales, I would never say James Harden. James Harden's problem is not physicality in the playoffs. It's that for some reason, perhaps he's out leveraged. He is incapable of performing in decisive games. Almost to the point where you're like, does this guy owe money to somebody?
Yeah, what's going on?
His goal is to get to a game 7 so he can bet against himself.
Yeah, I'm such a casual. Like, I'll just tune into the playoffs sometimes. And, you hear about on ESPN, like James Harden all year. And then I watch him play in the playoffs and he can't hit a shot. He's just
his style is awesome in the playoffs. It absolutely scales until he gets to a decisive game, like a game 6 or game 7 with everything on the line. Yeah. And then he wants nothing to do with shooting them. It's like amazing. It really is. It's like,
and that's even more of my casual because I'm not even watching it till it's a game of importance like that. Okay, so the run doesn't scale necessarily unless you're a legendary rushing team, which Texas has not been, even with incredible backs like Bijan. So not likely. So what does that mean? What do you have to be good at? How do you win those games when you get
spread passing game and quarterback run scale? So you either need to be able to run Riley Leonard 5 times on your opening drive for a touchdown, like Notre Dame did against Ohio State, although even they couldn't keep that up for the whole game. Or you got to be able to spread teams out and beat them in space.
You got to do the Mendoza draw and get some opportunities there. Before we talk about the spread passing game, let's hear a word from Academy.
Oh, it's an auto worm bite, turns out.
Giant. Oh, giant.
It's a giant, so.
It's a giant! 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 It's a giant!
All right. What does that actually look like? So quarterback, we need the spread pass and quarterback needs to run. What does that look like?
You need one of those. And the spread pass is a little better.
Okay. Why is that? Because the NFL, there's no NFL space. So if it's there no matter what.
Because this is the simplest way, and it's extremely obvious when you think about it, but people don't ever talk about it this way. If the other team has let's say the other team has Derrick Henry, God forbid, right?
You said that legitimately worried.
And it's like, we got to stop Derrick Henry to win this game. Well, there's good news. You know where Derrick Henry is going to be on every play. He's going to get the ball behind the line of scrimmage in front of your entire defense. Everybody's going to see it. Everybody's going to know where he's going. He's going to have a couple blocking patterns he can follow. You can rep those. You can load the box, etc.
There's not a lot of motions. There's not a lot of matchup hunting. There's not a lot of advantage.
You can do all that stuff, but it's still going to be the quarterback gets the ball and has to turn.
Correct. Exactly. You're going to know. Yeah, exactly.
You hand it to him at a fixed point on the field that you can triangulate with ease. Yeah. Right? It's so simple. In the passing game, if the ball could get to the dangerous player or players almost anywhere on the field from different angles because it goes through the air. This is the simplest thing, but how often do you hear commentators talk about it this way? They always get back to what really matters is imposing your will in the run game. It's like listening to an endless loop of early World War I generals just being like, we just got to man up, run through machine gun fire, and take the hill. It's like, that's not a good idea. That's a really bad way to do this. If you can the passing game is hard, obviously. You have to protect. The quarterback has to know where to go. The receivers have to run the right route adjustments, blah, blah, blah. But when you can do it, you can't just easily triangulate it on defense. It's extremely hard to stop, especially if you're willing to throw it underneath and not just deep.
And then say that they do successfully cover your guys. How does the quarterback run element work? And it can be quarterback run design. Tell us the difference between design and improv scramble.
Improv is really helpful, obviously, because it just gives you one more thing to worry about.
Pressure release valve.
It's a nice release valve. It's a nice third down deal. A lot of teams like to use tighter coverage on third down for obvious reasons because they want to get you off the field.
Yep.
And if you want to play tighter coverage, you end up playing man or man match. And if you play man or man match, you have guys turning their backs to the quarterback. And if the quarterback is a dangerous guy to turn his back on, then it's just one more pressure, one more stressor on your system, and one more person kind of kicking on the weak leg of the stool, right?
Yeah.
And then direct quarterback run game is something else entirely. But you get to if you play the Tebow Gators or the Cam Newton Auburn or I'm trying to think of another. There haven't been that many teams that have won championships this way. But theoretically, if the quarterback is a runner, it gets harder to triangulate where the ball is going to be because it could be this guy or this guy. And they have one more guy at the point of attack where they can say, yeah, we all know what's about to happen, but we're going to punch you in the point of attack by just gaining this extra man advantage. That's not what Texas is not going to do that. So not as a main course.
Yeah, we'll see in the red zone. All right. And then there's one more position we have not discussed that are important in 11 personnel. What is that position, Ian?
Tight end is very important. As I've said a million times, the best kind of tight end to have in an 11 personnel spread is a good blocking tight end who knows how to line up in different places, and he will catch the ball if you hit him in the hands. And he runs, I don't know, better than 5'2", right? That's it. That's all you need. The versatility and the blocking ability is primary. Everybody always thinks that including coaches, it's amazing. They always think the best 11 personnel spread tight end is like a
big receiver.
And it's not at all.
At that point, play 10 personnel.
Yeah, it might as well be a receiver. If he can't block and allow you to run like duo and counter, then he might as well be a receiver.
Yeah.
He can let you run duo and counter. Then the defense has to respect that. And if the defense has to respect that, then they cannot get into an optimal pass defensive alignment. So I'm getting it to the point where I'm starting to wonder if Spencer Shannon is actually tight end number 1, even over Nick Townsend.
Yeah, well, I mean, we've heard good things repeatedly throughout the offseason or throughout spring about Spencer Shannon, including some receiving ability too.
Yeah, the receiving thing is the big thing.
Yeah.
If he's catching the ball, then his blocking continues to improve like it was like in the Michigan game. He was a good blocker.
Yeah.
So if he can block in line, he can block off ball, and then he can go down the field and catch the ball, then it's like that's ideal. I bet you Townsend is a lot better off the ball. So I bet Townsend is still your 11 personnel guy.
Yeah, but I think he'd be better in that H-back role. Of course, he has speed, and there's still a part of Sark that, like, he wants him to catch. So it's like I still think that that's going to tint his view.
I bet we get what was the year where Helm played a lot and he caught a few balls, and every time he caught it, it was 23. I bet we get a 2023 Gunnar Helm season from Spencer Shannon.
It would have to be 2023, yeah. Yeah, but first things first, block. Because if you're going to be an 11 personnel, you still need the ability. That's why 11 personnel is, 12 is truly my favorite, but only when you start taking advantage of 12 as a passing thing. But if you're going to do 11, you can really get the best of both worlds there. You can get the tight end that can block and then can catch. So you get 10 personnel advantage. You get the idea of 12 with blocking. But you have to be able to run in it, or else you should be in 10 personnel. So I don't know, but we've heard so much about Shannon. I start to wonder too if he'll be tight end 1. Older development curve, and then we're going to play a lot of 12 anyways. So that's where you can start to work in Townsend. But we do so much split zone.
Yeah.
To me, it's like Sark's not going to prioritize necessarily the better inline blocker. It's going to be the.
That's why Townsend is still maybe your tight end 1. It's because of that.
Yeah.
Shannon is improved by so much, but like the last spring game where we watched him split zone block, which was 2 years ago now, it was like unplayably bad.
Yeah.
He's like too tall, and he didn't know how to get low and get the right leverage. He may know how to do it now. He may just be good at it, so it'd be totally fine.
Ian Homer, I know Shannon hype, but from your tape watching, what have you seen from his blocking? So earlier in the year, it was horrific. Pretty much all the tight ends were horrific. And then I kind of tuned out on Shannon. I was kind of like, hey, see you in the portal. And then Ian would be like, hey man, he actually had a pretty good blocking game. I'd be like, whatever, Ian. And then I would go watch the tape and then focus on him because I'd be looking at something else, and I'd be like, oh, actually he is getting better. And then that continued like later on in the season. And by the end of the season, he was doing a lot better. So I think I was wrong on that one. And I think I got really impatient with the new era It's like, what do you mean you're not elite year 3? Get out of here. So I think he was just on a longer development curve, but he absolutely improved throughout the season.
The decision to have the players lift heavy weight in the offseason, this is, I imagine he's like one of the biggest beneficiaries of that, because he came in so big that it was like, could this guy grow into an offensive lineman?
Right.
And then he like lost weight, which is fine. They're good at cutting unneeded weight with a lot, some like their sprints and some of the stuff Becton does. That's really good. But then every year you'd watch his weight on the roster, and it wasn't going back up to where a 6'6", 6'7" tight end's weight should be if you want him to be a good blocker.
Yeah.
Until now. Now he jumped up like 5 or 10 pounds on the last deal, and everybody's saying, like Eric keeps hearing over and over again, like he's gotten stronger and he's grown into his body, and his muscles have grown strong enough to control his body with tighter coordination. So he's like catching better and blocking better.
I also just have a bias against really tall tight ends. I don't think it's the ideal body type for the position. And so it's like, well, offensive linemen are tall and have long arms, but it's just there's something with tight ends. I just don't like that long reach. I think defensive ends are way better at getting inside of them and fighting them in a phone booth. And I could be completely wrong on it, but I do have a bias there. I don't like the tall, long arm guy. I like the fullback looking guy. So I think that probably colored my analysis too. But
yeah, I guess what you mean, like Gronkowski, right?
Yeah,
terrible, super
horrible,
super tall, really long arms, and absolutely sucked at everything.
Yeah, I wouldn't have voted for him. But I think too, I think I'm biased in the Texas context, and I think it's because of lack of strength. So it's like when you're long armed, but they're long noodle arms, and you're just kind of sticking them out there, they're just swatting their arms. You know, it means nothing. They're not actually able to hold guys at range. So maybe it is with an added strength program. Maybe I'll come around to it. But in the Texas context, I've absolutely hated those long arm guys. But it could just be weightlifting.
Should go look at other schools and see how it tends to go for them with their crazy tall. Yeah. Iowa State, now Penn State. Campbell would take a ton of tall guys.
Yeah, I think to me, I don't know. It's like 6'4".
Usually blocked pretty good, so that was not a
6'4" is like my magic limit. Once you start looking like a power forward, I guess I just immediately am like, I don't like it. I'm also just like, I love fullbacks, dude. Like, I just want to see a tiny little meatball, dude, go at it. Like, that's one of my favorite just players in existence is like the fullback body type. But I get it. They want them to be taller in the pass game. It helps. Reach does help. There's no question. They measure arm length in the combine. It's just a weird quirk I have, I guess.
I have this theory that there's this great market inefficiency of building like a 13 personnel team where like you have like 2 or 3 fullback guys on the field at all time.
Yeah.
Only they can catch and run routes.
Yeah, I agree with you. Got to do like the San Francisco style.
Yes.
All right.
Like maybe even more, like 2 use checks.
Yeah, that'd be nice. I would take 2. I would take 3 use checks. All right. So that's the offensive side of the ball. That they played a lot. So heavy spread passing, 11 personnel, even without Arch. Said that the offense got the better of the defense this week. And it was not just spamming fades to Cam Coleman. It was the surgical stuff and attacking hook players, right? Is that what we heard? And all that kind of stuff. So I really like that, man. That was a little change we made in Mississippi State. And I thought it unlocked our offense for the rest of the season, making that slight twist. So any more on the offense end before we go to defense?
That's how you win the championship, is you nail that down and then you become indefensible.
And then you have the home run flexibility of the run game where somebody can pop it for 40, 60 when they misfit. That's real nice. So I agree. I think that's the key for the offense. Spread passing, explosive run game, and then hopefully they'll get those safeties away from being over top of Cam Coleman. Before we talk – go ahead.
What's Nelson talking about? Those guys had elite jump. Our tight ends aren't actually good vertical guys. Are we talking about those guys meaning like Gronkowski or who?
Juszczyk.
Juszczyk? I don't know. But Townsend is explosive as anybody.
Yeah. Legit track speed.
Yeah, Masunas, not so much.
Yeah.
Shannon, God only knows right now.
Yeah. But
the Iowa State guys that they were always stockpiling, like they had this like 6'7", 270-pound guy named Dylan Sainer who ate us alive in that dreadful 2020 game where they knocked us out of the Big 12 championship hunt and ruined the season and basically got Tom Herman fired. And their guys were not all elite jumpers. They're just big, strong, versatile guys.
Shannon is on the Gunnar Helm developmental timeline. True in numbers, right? Just how many years until you potentially get to see them. But Helm at Cherry Creek, I was confused on Helm's usage before his breakout season.
Yep.
Because if you watched him at Cherry Creek, he was a clear, deep passing threat.
Yeah.
And like he was going up and getting it all the time. And so I was like, the whole time saying that Helm is a receiver, and they would say like, well, we're trying to get him in 12 personnel and blocking and all that. And I'm like, but that's not what Helm is. And I get we have Sanders in front of him, so he's going to play the role. But I thought Helm was held back artificially, having Sanders in front of him and then them trying to force him to do some other things. But he could have played as a receiving tight end early. I mean, he was never a great blocker, neither was Sanders. So that it's not like he developed into some good blocker. He always had the passing ability, in my opinion.
He was a passable blocker early on too. I was shocked.
He could screen. It's just my version of blocking.
Yeah. If you go back to that famous drive where that famous game where Baylor sack stripped Ewers in 2022 and ran it back for a touchdown and took a lead in Austin.
Yeah.
And then Sark called duo like 20 times in a row and scored like 2 touchdowns in a row and just ran out the clock.
Yeah.
I went back to it because I was trying to find examples of Texas's Big 12 personnel where they would have like an extra offensive lineman at tight end. And so I just went straight to that drive, right?
Yeah.
And it was all Helm.
Yeah.
Remarkably.
Yeah.
So he was playing a lot even as a freshman as a blocker. And I with you, like you watch his Cherry Creek high school film and he's like running like double moves, sticking on
mossing dudes. Like yeah. So I think Shannon's different. I think Shannon needed every minute of his developmental timeline. I thought Helm artificially got held back. Sanders was actually a pretty limited guy when you think of it. He looked impressive, but he wasn't an elite athlete and also wasn't a very good blocker. He had a very specific skill set. His combine numbers were pretty jarring. I just assumed he'd be better. He's a Denton Ryan guy, so shout out Denton Ryan. But I thought his athletic profile was going to be a lot better than it ended up being. And either he was hurt or his training wasn't taken seriously because it just wasn't great. It was mostly bench that I'm probably keying in on, but
he ran a 4.32 shuttle and a 4.69 40.
I'll give you that, but I need that's what's the meme, Ian? Are you talking about receiver traits or tight end traits? Receiver traits.
Oh yeah, do you like him for?
Yeah, I love this tight end. Do you like him for receiver reasons or tight end reasons? Receiver reasons.
I just don't. I push back on the idea that he wasn't an elite athlete. He was plenty elite for the matchups he would get playing as a tight end, and in college he was a good enough blocker to justify playing in the box in the core. And then once he was in the core, he was going to completely outclass the linebackers that had to cover him.
I agree. There's two ways to take it.
He was for college. He was awesome. For the NFL, he needed to get a lot better at blocking, and I don't know if that's happened.
Develop more skill. Yeah. And so I can see, I see it both ways. I'm talking to the height end of a true tight end, blocking ability, strength, also being able to catch. But he was a wide receiver. He did wide receiver things, and then he could screen blocks occasionally. But most of the time, it was turning their shoulder and just getting in front of guys. There wasn't a lot of like sticking on to guys.
That's all Travis Kelce's done, and He's marrying Taylor Swift, so
That's all. Exactly. You're right. I mean, he proved us wrong. All right, before we keep going, guys, let's hear a word from David McClellan, and then we will talk defense. Big financial decisions don't have to feel overwhelming. There's someone who can guide you every step of the way. David McClellan is a fiduciary financial advisor with Forum Financial, and he's working closely with his clients as a true financial life coach, guiding every aspect of your financial journey with expertise and care. If his name sounds familiar, that's because David was a swimmer at Texas and a member of several national championship teams. Today, he channels that same championship mindset into helping people win with their finances. David specializes in financial planning, and he's contributed numerous articles to Kiplinger on the topic of retirement tax bombs. And right now, David is offering viewers a free intro consultation to assess your financial situation. Do not miss this chance to get personalized guidance from a trusted expert. To schedule your free consult, email David at dmcclellan@forumfinancial.com, or you can call him directly at 312-933-8823. The contact info is in the description. All right. Quick, before we do defense, what position groups have you been hearing hype about that you are most skeptical?
boy, I don't feel like I've heard hype on positions that I didn't expect to hear hype on.
Right.
Every
So
position
I've heard hype on running back, but I expect them to be far more explosive. That was the whole point. We've heard a lot of stuff on Cooper. I think I'm skeptical there just because it's like incredibly high praise. Like we've heard like, you know, Heisman potential, not like this year, but Heisman comps to like legendary running backs just week after week. And to be fair, generally when we do hear these things, they've been true. Like we heard all last year, it's like, hey, watch out for Littleton. Hey, Xavier Worthy's really good. So it's not like I shouldn't trust it because they do have a history of this being correct. I don't know. Maybe I'm just jaded from running back performance over the past couple of years. But
if Texas has a running back win the Heisman in the next few years, it means that they underachieved this year because of offense. Sark got fired. Muschamp was made head coach, and then he went back to his stupid murder ball Florida strategy, and it like worked for 1 year. I am skeptical about Cooper and Michael Terry. Part of me is like, even like, are we really even going to see those guys that much this year, or is this just like sometimes when you get a lot of hype, Terry, Cooper, and Diabell. Whenever I hear hype about those guys, it makes me kind of like, are we just like really selling them on their futures because we don't want them to transfer out?
Right. Are we just yeah. There is that part of like we're paying them in promotion for waiting their turn.
I think me and you are on a similar page where like every day that goes by and I hear something from the program, it makes me think that KJ Lacey can and should be the heir to Arch Manning. And I already lean that way anyway because I hate trying to play underclassmen quarterbacks in today's game of college football. Yeah. It's just not how you win games. And so
to be fair, Arch has been out, so there's only, half your damn views are what the quarterback's doing in spring, and we haven't even had Arch. So I think there's a part of it too. It's just like, of course, they're going to talk about those guys.
I believe the hype on Lacey, though.
I believe the hype on Dia, but not this year, you know. And it's like I think Lacey's going to give him a legit competition. I like that I'm hearing that he's composed. Like I think that's an important trait.
To me, sometimes the stuff we hear makes it sound like they don't want to go too hard on Lacey because they don't want to drive away Dia. You know?
Yeah, I haven't thought that deeply in that regard.
Well,
I just know people are going to ask about quarterbacks, and there's only two they can talk about right now.
The things we hear are that like it's always like Dia is very poised. You can see the traits. There's incredible football in there that'll come out eventually. But And then kind of a throwaway like KJ Lacey is definitely the backup.
Well, it's mostly what I hear about Dia is, like you said, traits, like his composure. And mostly what I hear about Lacey is the play he makes.
Yeah.
So it's just like, I think that's a good sign, though. Even though it seems like you're sliding Lacey, it's like when they're talking about he's the one making plays on the field. I think that sounds good. I'm on the don't sleep KJ Lacey train, and I have been. People just assume it's Dia, and I love Dia. I think he's awesome, but I don't think it's obvious that Dia is going to beat him out with ease.
Yeah, I would bet against it, I think.
Yeah.
And I think Sark agrees with me. If he can, if he's not over leveraged on Dia.
Is Lacey cheaper than most quarterbacks right now? Help get better weapons around. I'm sure he's a little bit cheaper. I don't know how, probably compared to Dia, who is a top guy.
Theoretically, Texas should always get a discount on quarterbacks in terms of like you have your revenue sharing money and you have your donor, like consistent donor money, like the donors that always give for the purposes of paying players. And the value of those two funds is buying players that are essential to winning, but not necessarily as marketable, like defensive linemen or offensive linemen.
Yeah.
Quarterback at the University of Texas in the NIL era, you don't really need the university to pay you a cent. You should be able to make millions of dollars off of endorsements with ease if you have any kind of competent management. Like Quinn was doing commercials for locals. Freaking Arch has like got the Warby's deal and Raising Cane's and whatever else he wants.
Yeah, Arch has national deals, but Quinn got Dr. Pepper. So.
Quinn got Dr. Pepper.
Yeah.
Backup? We don't need backup.
That was a really good commercial.
Yeah, it was.
I clicked the wrong button. I think Jamie French will be a silent secret weapon for this year for Arch with Cam and Ryan. So Jamie French transferred out, brother. So he will be a silent weapon for sure. But Khalil Lockett, same class, has stuck around. We'll see. He's like behind Cam. Khalik's someone I'm really, really excited for as well. So Mosley, Cam, Ryan Wingo, freshman Bishop, I think are probably your four most mentioned and high. McCutcheon as well. Absolutely. Yeah. And so wide receiver, we actually haven't heard that much hype on, which is unique. Eric said in a thing that basically, they're keeping two high safeties for a lot of it. That's why you haven't heard a ton. But also, you're not playing with your starting quarterback, so that's going to play a big role too. So we haven't heard a ton of wide receiver hype, honestly, even though we get asked about Cam every 5 minutes. Are there any other positions that are hyped that you're skeptical of?
I don't think so. We've heard some caution on linebacker, which you kind of want to hear.
I was going to say linebacker's not hyped. Yeah.
If you were hearing hype at linebacker, you'd be like, stop talking to me. I know you don't. There's no way.
Yeah, that's got to be the defensive weakness in theory, at least.
Yeah, there's no way.
Yeah,
you hear, hey, they're figuring some stuff out. They got some young guys that are figuring stuff out. We think Cryer has value in this role. It's all stuff that's like, yeah, that's what you wanted. That's what you'd hope for. And it was a plausible hope.
Right.
So yeah, that sounds good.
We hear hype at corner, but I believe the hype. I think that room has like 7 guys that I want to see. Safety has been mostly quiet. And Eric said the same thing, that they're just kind of doing their jobs as safety. Staying up.
So safety has been quiet and defensive tackle has been quiet.
Mm-hmm.
But you know who else has been quiet? Cam Coleman and the starting running backs.
Well, no, the starting running backs have gotten shout outs. Like they'll be like Smothers had a 50-yarder, I've heard good stuff about the starting running backs. I
Oh,
barely
yeah.
heard about the defensive tackles, which I think is a good thing, and then I barely heard about the safeties, which I think is a good thing because
That's what
those are
I'm
just be
saying.
solid.
I'm saying the what you're hearing about him indirectly, in that you're not. I don't feel like you're hearing as much about the run game or the offensive line or the outside receivers.
Yeah.
Which I think are good signs on the defense.
Yeah, it's actually a good sign. So, yeah, there's not a lot I'm skeptical of. There's certain players maybe I'm skeptical of when they get the hype, but I don't feel like it's been crazy. I don't feel like there's been too much this spring cycle that I'm super suspicious of because, like I said, a lot of the changes we made were for the reasons that I'm hearing about. All right, the importance of 4-down nickel defense.
This is part of what's been encouraging, is that everything we've been hearing from spring is kind of what you'd want to hear, expect to hear.
Want to hear, but not like they're just giving red meat. It's like, oh, that makes sense. That's why you transferred that guy in.
Yes, yeah.
All right.
So, defense.
The mint nickel package.
I mentioned this earlier. You want to have a 4-down nickel for, I guess, 2 reasons that are very connected. The 3-down mint nickel defense is awesome for stopping RPOs kind of stuff.
Watch Pack and Ian and I's Saturday series, and you can learn all about it.
Yeah, Pack, you watch him on Mint, and he'll explain this. It's extremely valuable to have that package in your defense. But when you're playing a team that's either more heavy into actual spread passing, or it's a passing down where they're just not going to run RPOs the same way, they want to get guys open on progressions, then you want the 4-down nickel stuff so that you can get a little more pass rush. You can get Lance Jackson and Colin Simmons in outside rushing lanes, and you can protect your secondary to bracket receivers more easily. And so they need that dimension. It's also like if you don't have a 4-down with Colin Simmons and Lance Jackson,
it's almost criminal.
It is criminal. Yeah. It is criminal not to at least have that dimension to go.
That's been funny as we've been going real in the weeds on Muschamp's scheme with Pack. You know, he shows us all these things, and we're like, yeah, but you got to get Colin Simmons off the. I get it. I get the scheme. I get why you do it, but come on, man, that guy has to pass rush. We don't want 8 sacks for our guy. We want him to have 500 sacks.
So you want to be able to do that with 2 high coverages, but you also want to be able to do that with 1 high coverages so that you can balance your run game concerns and still get the 4 pass rushers, Lance Jackson and Colin Simmons on the outside kind of deal. And also with this secondary, if you're not playing like man or match coverage and trying to get tight on people, it's also criminal.
Yeah, all of our secondary players are like legit man corners.
If it's all like catching people in cover 4 off coverage, it's like, what are we doing?
Yeah. I agree 100%. That's why I was so excited about this group of DBs, because I'm like, these are real man corners, and we can play them as such. And then we get Muschamp, who will actually play them as man corners. You hear Manny in the combine, all the NFL guys were like, we don't know if you can play man. And he's like, I can play man. They didn't let me play man. So
he had the weirdest quote. It was like,
oh yeah, what was it?
80% of the earth is covered by me, and the other 20% is burnt orange.
Yeah.
And everyone was like, what does that mean?
I did the Will Ferrell quote, like, no one knows what it means, but it's provocative.
Oh, I was thinking of don't question Bruce Dickinson.
Yeah, but it was just, whenever I saw that quote, I was like, I have no idea what that means. I get the spirit of it, I guess, but when you read it word for word, you're like, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. All right, so this looks like some 1 high version. Can we explain this, Ian?
So the source was going on and on about, one of our sources was going on and on about Muschamp reinventing Rip Liz match coverage, which generated an animated discussion in our thread with Pack when we were trying to figure out what he was talking about.
Yeah.
Where we landed was that they were probably in the early install, in which they would have been working on this version of zone match that was in the Georgia playbook and is in Muschamp's arsenal and would make sense to be something that would be coming up in spring around practice 9. How deep in the weeds in terminology do we want to get here? Homer, do we want to save that for Packer?
Yeah. Let's not get deep in the weeds, but just explain the core principle. What the hell is a zone match? What does that even mean?
Zone match is, I'm always man coverage. I gave this to somebody the other day. I'm always having to remind myself because it's just perfect distillation. Man coverage is, hey, you get that guy, you get that guy. Man matches, you get that guy unless. Zone matches, you get that guy if.
Yeah.
So that I feel like is very helpful. In this case, it's like I drew a line across the Z to the corner, the H to the star, and the X to the corner. Those guys have much more simple, you have that guy if rules, but they're almost definitely going to have that guy in Ripley's. It's like if this guy goes down the field, you got him. That's your guy. If they go underneath, you may trade them off to somebody else. But anything vertical, it's just you. And then the money backer, the mic, and the free safety are dropping into the middle. And you have that guy if rules also. But those can end up being a little more fluid because where's that tight end actually going to go? Where's that running back actually going to go?
Yep.
They can end up in a few different places, and who gets them will depend on that. And in the meantime, they all three just kind of drop into a zone and watch to see what happens. So you have almost man coverage outside, almost zone coverage inside, and then the strong safeties dropping to take away the deep post route. And the source, we think this is what the source saw. The source was very impressed by having that ability to play with like man coverage almost on the outside against a trips formation with 3 receivers. And that kind of zone and man combination was very impressive to him. Although he then described how Sark absolutely chewed it up,
Yeah,
throwing to the tight ends and finding ways to get guys open in the zone against the money backer, the mic, and the free safety. And that source is also not terribly impressed by the linebackers, and that may have been wise that they kept losing guys in those zones.
Yeah.
But
Some of that too is because my thing too is like I like the linebackers in the pass game. So it's like that's not part of worried me. I think they're probably just getting a lot of reps on mixing things up, and Sark will take the running back and bring them down to the trip side after the snap or send the Y back up towards the boundary. So I think too their sorting is just not as good yet.
I thought about that for a minute. You like Rasheem Biles in coverage.
Right.
But when the source was watching the game, he wasn't watching just Rasheem Biles get cooked over and over again. He was watching Rocky Cummings trying to figure this stuff out.
Yep.
As an early enrollee freshman, and he was watching, and who's missed practice time, and he was watching Juice Cryer, God help him,
who's not known for his speed.
And so there's like 2 combinations that Sark was dialing up that were giving this mega trouble. One is you run the X maybe on a hitch, and the corner is just going to stay across from him.
Yeah, you cancel out the X.
The H runs deep. That means the star takes him. If the Y now runs a stick route into that open space, the star is not there. So it's just the money versus the Y in wide open space, and the Y's route is get open and just run away from the money. And that's extremely hard to defend from this coverage.
And the Y and the money backer's out leveraged already.
Yeah, because he has to stay inside for a run. And then the other one was they were running Y cross. And if the Y runs up and across the field at depth, then the money is going to trade him to the mic. So then the mic has to find the Y coming across and match him at depth. And that's like Cryer or Cummings, and that's not great.
You're right. That's not a good matchup.
You'd want to use the side adjustment on that and have the mic trade to the running back and the free safety drop to pick that up instead. But maybe they couldn't do that for whatever reason.
Yeah.
So it'd be easy. Without that adjustment, it's not hard to get the Y isolated on the worst linebacker. And you could see how that would have been.
Well, that's what I love to hear, is that Sark was just like, you don't have a guy where the stick route is, so I'm going to throw it for 5 yards. Like, that's exactly what I want to see from the offense. So even though I had mixed emotions on, like, defense getting a little cooked in the short game, but also Sark was cooking them in the short game. So I felt good about that side of it.
Yeah, this coverage, awesome. This is exactly what you want, is to have a coverage where you can match up everybody, make the quarterback hold the ball, and figure something out while Colin Simmons and Lance Jackson and Hero Canoe are bearing down on him. That is exactly what you want. So the fact that they're working on that is very encouraging to me. The fact that the offense chewed it up is also encouraging to me, because that means the offense is practicing that. The backup can apparently do it. And also, they chewed him up on it early in spring when it's kind of new to the defense. The defense is going to get a lot better. Because of the pieces that are involved in this defense, if they keep practicing stuff like that, they're going to be very, very good at it. It's not conceivable that this defense would be bad at that style of coverage in front if it's something that they put any time into, right?
And sometimes it's like, I don't know, sometimes the fingers are on the scale in those situations. Like, Sark's offense is purposely attacking something the defense hasn't installed yet. And then guess what? On Monday with the plan, that's the defense they install and how to solve that. So sometimes too, I can't always take that it was just open playbooks for both coordinators and they're really going at it. Sometimes there's a lot of design there and like teaching moments. I don't know that, but I'm always suspicious that could be the case. Homer, Ian, other guys at IT and Texas sources say subtly or out loud that Bo Barnes is probably the biggest loss to the portal this year. So for me personally, this
has been like our mantra.
I was going to say other sources at IT. I was like, it's pretty much me and Ian.
Yeah.
But I agree.
I think it's everybody pretty much.
Yeah. So I think Bo Barnes is an early round linebacker. I think he has a unique mix of speed and size and athleticism. So to me, he was a shoe-in to be a starting linebacker for Texas and be a good one. Negotiations got weird, I guess. And then we let him go. And I was fine with letting him go or him choosing to go to Kentucky, whatever it was, in anticipation of an older player at that position that had that similar profile. And then it didn't happen. So I think that was a mistake to let him go. And I think you might see that it was a mistake at linebacker, particularly at Mike this year.
It looks worse because they spent money to get Rasheem Biles. Mm-hmm. They retained Anthony Smith, who's like an even smaller Rasheem Biles. And then they spent to get a 5-star linebacker in Tyler Atkinson, who's also like a smaller Rasheem Biles.
They're all wills.
They're money.
So, you know,
we say money now.
Okay, sorry.
We're Zimbabwe now.
Okay. They're all monies, which are known traditionally as a will linebacker. That's what I'm saying. We don't have like a true Mike. I mean, actually, Juice Cryer is a true Mike, but like a decades ago true Mike.
Yeah, they have Cryer, and they're trying to get Cummings up to speed.
Yeah.
And to be like the backup. And so it's like, man.
If you just had Barnes, and then
why do we have all this money into one linebacker position and then like no money, cheap solutions at the other linebacker solution? That seems like we didn't quite manage that properly.
When we know that linebacker is a really important piece to this defense too.
I will say though, there is some sense to paying for the athletic linebacker and then just trying to train up tough meatheads to play Mike.
Yeah.
I think they might get away with it, I think.
But it still ultimately has left me the most bearish on linebacker. Offensive line, huge questions still for me. And then linebacker, I have huge questions, particularly at Mike. But yeah, I think that was a mistake. I don't think your offseason can go necessarily perfect. And I think that was an example of it not going perfect. Okay.
They're obviously, so it's like maybe they'll try Smith there. And then they're working Cryer and Cummings there pretty heavily. I have no idea.
I think it's going to be Cryer, man, with everything that we're hearing.
Yeah, I think so too.
So you take it, he's a veteran guy. He absolutely is ecstatic to be at Texas. Like him and his family are through the roof. That matters, right? He wants to be there. Ton of experience.
He's from Katy, so
yeah. And so ton of experience. And he's a really good forward linebacker. He just lacks foot speed. So if a back fires out to the flats, I don't love him being able to keep up with him. And then anything deep, I don't love. But as far as like stepping up and taking on guards, I'm good with that side. So maybe we just get really sound veteran play there, and we can help. But I don't love the Smith and Biles combination because they're both lighter linebackers. And if Smith is really at 205 like they listed him, it's like that's not playable. Like that's not playable size at that position. I mean, you want like at minimum 230. So it's like you're 25 pounds away from the minimum weight you should be. Don't love it. Any other final pieces here, Ian?
I think we hit
them all, but
I like that Lacey is doing good. I like that Lacey is doing good in the spread passing game. That is, the idea of Texas getting back to having like a quick, fast, accurate quarterback running around in the spread and hitting quick passes just gives me great joy. I wish he was actually a Texan instead of an Alabama kid, but that, we can adopt him. That's great.
Yeah.
KJ Lacey seems super fun to me. I'm excited about that. The tight ends being good and them throwing them the ball is a great sign. Bus Champ just needs to make sure they have the side adjustment so that they can protect Juice Cryer from isolation, and we should be good to go.
Good stuff. Guys, take advantage of this. Ultimate Inside Texas Tailgate giveaway. It's brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors. You can win a Blackstone Grill, Yeti cooler, and 2 tumblers, 2 Longhorn chairs, and a canopy. And all you have to do is go to the Inside Texas Instagram, find the post, read the rules, and sign up. And it's not laborsome rules. It's just tag a friend type stuff. And you get all of this. And we gave it away last year too. And I'm really impressed by it. Thank you, Academy, for doing it. Link is in the description. And then also, join us, guys. 50% off right now. You'll get our board, On 3, and Rivals all together in the Ultimate Fan Bundle. Link is also in the description. Everyone have an awesome day, and stay tuned in for the rest of the shows. And this was brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors. Later, y'all.